Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first pre-concert talk of the 20th season of the North State Symphony. My name is Scott Seaton. I am the music director of this wonderful organization, and it is a real privilege to be here this evening after so many months. Finally, it feels like we are officially starting our season, and it's been entirely too long. Before I jump in, I want to first thank some very important people and organizations for making all of this possible. To start out with, I want to thank two very important people that sponsor our pre-concert talks, and that's Richard and Pat Macias, who have been doing this for several years now, and just wonderful people. Thank you both so much for allowing me to really delve into the educational aspect of the symphony's mission, and that's to inform everyone here about what you're going to hear on Thursday. I also want to thank our season sponsor, Dignity Health. We couldn't do it without you guys. And then also we have some very special people, especially this year because it's a year of many changes. And we have a group of people who we're calling our fall sponsors. And that is Nina Perry, Dan Pertzer, we have Jim Malin, Patty and Gary Mullet, and Elsie McIntaggart. So thank you all so much for keeping music alive in the North State this fall and sponsoring our first several performances. So I'm going to quickly chat about how we got here. And then at the very end of the talk this evening, I'm going to be on with Elizabeth Quivy, our executive director, and we'll talk more about this whole process, how we finally got to be here in a virtual realm with you all this evening. But of course, when the pandemic hit, arts organizations everywhere were forced to reimagine, redesign, think outside of the box, and for us, rediscover. And that's the theme of this season. And what I mean by that and what we came up with is really, a way for us in these times where we can't go to live concerts to rediscover what it is that makes the North State Symphony such a special organization, such a special entity. And that is, of course, our musicians. They are us. We do not exist without our musicians, just like we do not exist without the supporters and those who come and listen to us. There's the old saying, if a tree falls in the forest, doesn't make noise. Well, and so it's very musician-centric this season, in this season called Rediscover. And most of our programs this year have a co-curator, of which is a musician that comes from the symphony. For example, this first program called Mozart and More is actually co-curated by our assistant concertmaster, Lee Yuan Ho. And when we were first brainstorming, thinking of things to do, we based this whole program around Mozart, and then we added a really cool, eclectic, diverse piece at the very end, which we'll talk much more about. So here we are in Rediscover after months of planning and replanning and planning again, and it's mind-boggling how many changes we had to go through our seasons. I mean, there's at least 30 versions of the season that we went through that changed, sometimes hourly. And as maddening and as frustrating as all of that was, it's over and we're here. And all of the changes that happened in the past several months, some of them are for the better because even after we can get back on our concert halls, even after we can go back to Laxon and the Cascade, a lot of the really interesting things that we've brainstormed to bring to you all will stick around. Some of the new series that we're doing, some of the really the more in-depth musician accent series that we're doing, the Cracking the Score, and we're going to have a lot of things that integrate this virtual world into the physical world, which is something that was unavoidable in the world of the arts, in the world of nonprofits, and we're happy to be able to exist, first of all, and to be able to adapt and change with the times. but still bringing you all the favorites like the Beethovens, the Brahms, and Mozarts in the concert hall, recreating these great moments in history, but also thinking forward to the future and what that holds. So this program is Mozart and More, like I said, and most people are familiar with Mozart. Most people know that he was a child prodigy. You know, he was this this Austrian composer that crafted a whopping 625 works, from 41 symphonies to 27 piano concertos to 5 violin concertos, 23 string quartets. We have string quintets. Operas, of course, very well known for operas. He wrote 22 of those, masses, serenades. It is exhausting to think about how much he did in the very short lifespan that he lived. Now, it's funny because we already got a question earlier that someone submitted, you know, because he wrote piano concertos and violin concerti. Someone asked why he never wrote a cello concerto, and I don't really have an answer to that, other than none of his friends really requested it. It wasn't something that was really on his radar. And there are several ways to think about that statement. You know, why didn't Franz Joseph Haydn ever write a string quintet? Because no one ever asked him to. So it's probably very similar as to why Mozart never really penned any notes for the cello in a soloistic context. There are some fragments, but nothing ever sustained through them. Anyway, Mozart was alive in a very exciting time in the world. He was alive when the United States became what it is. He was alive when, in 1776, when we, you know, signed our charter, our Declaration of Independence, and you know, it was a time that especially he himself profoundly affected the world of classical music. So as a child, as a prodigy, he was proficient on the piano by age 4. He was playing in public by age 6. He was composing operas very early in his life. He was doing all kinds of things that myself, normal children, just did not do. As a result of his dad, Leopold, toting him and his sister, Nannerl, to perform all over Europe, he made very strong connections. He really got his foot in the door in a lot of places, and was able to secure gifts in the future and give himself a nice financial cushion, especially as he started gathering commissions and things like that. And after extensive touring, he was eventually secured into a permanent post as the leader of a court orchestra in Salzburg in 1769. And he was at this point 20-ish years old. So because of his flighty nature, he leaves about 5 years later because of the success of one of his operas called Idomeneo. And he heads back to Vienna to compose, to teach, to play the piano, and just make a life grounded in music. And in 1782, this is an important year because he marries his love, Constance. And this was opposed by his father. His dad was very much, you need to focus on your career. Don't let these things distract you. And that's when a lot of the tensions that really happened between Mozart and his dad, Leopold, began to come to the fore. And so when they married, they moved far away, at least at that time. 200 miles was far away in Vienna, where they had enough distance to put family between them. During the years, his fortunes were up and down. And in 1791, as most of us are aware, if not from the movie Amadeus, he was working on his Requiem up to the point of his death, which many believe that he was composing that piece for himself specifically. Now, it's important to remember this relationship, this very tense relationship that he had with his father. And it was one of love, yet Mozart detested the neediness of his father, the ways that he sort of tried to control his life, that he needed that as some sort of cushion for himself. So, getting close to the music we're talking about, in 1787, when his father was ill, Mozart wrote the following letter. So take a gander at this. And it says, as death, when we come to consider it closely, is the true goal of our existence, he wrote. I have formed during the last few years such close relations with this best and truest friend of mankind that his image is not only no longer terrifying to me, but is indeed very soothing and consoling. And I thank my God for graciously granting me the opportunity, you know what I mean, of learning that death is the key which unlocks the door to our true happiness. I never lie down at night without reflecting that, young as I am, I may not live to see another day. Now, what a weird letter to write to your dad. And this puts a lot of things into perspective. The fact that we have things like the G minor quintet, which the first movement we're going to open this entire season with, which starts very sort of feverish and with anxiety and with uncertainty and with sighing and broken phrases, but if you listen to the quintet in its entirety, and there are moments here and there where he just goes into these brilliant, almost optimistic, major sounding sections, and it's as if he doesn't know how to deal with this intense emotional baggage that's happening to him and around him. He had experienced death with having 6 children and having 4 of those die in infancy. He was writing the G minor quintet at the time when his dad was very ill. His mom passed away much earlier than she should have. All of these things take their emotional toll, and Mozart didn't quite know how to deal with it. And that's why you have things like the G minor quintet and the G minor symphony and the end of Don Giovanni, which is one of the darkest operas he ever wrote, and the last one he wrote, which ends so bizarrely with a major section after Don Giovanni is just dragged into the depths of hell. So Mozart was a very interesting character. But let's talk about the G minor quintet and what you're going to hear on this first part of the program. So he wrote 2 quintets very close to each other in 1787 when he was 31 years old. One is very cheery, very sunny, very bright, and one, as we've been talking about, is very dark, very violent, more pessimistic. And he wrote quintets, even though not many people, nobody really, was doing it. And at a time where the string quartet was almost at the peak of its popularity. And even people like Franz Joseph Haydn was asked, why didn't you write a quintet? And he's like, nobody asked me to, because it just wasn't desired. They didn't have the pristineness, the clarity that a quartet does. But Mozart loved, for instance, the viola, and he loved having 5 voices to create different musical nuances with, and different lines and different textures, and pairing the viola with the violin, or the cello with the violin, and the viola with the second violin, to be able to have melody and counter melody and this rich harmonic depth happening simultaneously. So that's why he decided to delve into the realm of the quintet. Now, in this movement that you're going to hear in the G minor quintet, it's very basic. It's a very sonata form, which just means you're going to hear essentially 3 parts: an opening, a middle part where he combines and discombobulates some themes and adds some things here and there, and then finally he closes it off, wrapping things up nicely and coming full circle back around. And like I said, there is just one moment in this entire G minor first movement that has this one departure from the key, but then immediately goes back into this development, this tragic development and tragic recapitulatory section. I just want to show you all a snippet from this Mozart string quintet from the performance you're going to hear on Thursday. So let's jump in and listen for this sort of, mainly listen for this mood that we talked about, this mood of anxiety, of darkness. So that was an excerpt from the G minor quintet from our wonderful musicians, and we can't wait to show you the whole thing. The other Mozart on the program is the clarinet quintet. Now this is a bit of a different piece, and for this we're going to feature our very own clarinetist Bruce Belton, and this piece was written in 1789, so a couple years after the string quintet. And it's his only clarinet quintet and the best known quintet for that instrument. It was originally written for a basset clarinet, which is not too far away from the standard clarinet that you see all the time, but it's got a little bit more of an extended low range. Most times nowadays, it's played on the clarinet A, which you'll see. This is another healthy dose of what we just talked about in terms of having a movement in sonata form and being able to anticipate sort of the circle of hearing the initial material at the very end. This piece has a very sort of spacious pacing. It's a little bit more back looking. It's a little bit more nostalgic. It's an exploration of the beauty and tone color and the depth that the clarinet is capable of. It was originally written for one of Mozart's friends, Anton Stadler, which he also dedicated the Mozart Clarinet Concerto to. And like I said, it's been described, here's an interesting quote for you, as a major key work with a minor key aftertaste. So keep that in mind. And as we listen to, we're going to listen to a little snippet of it. And around this time, his wife had been ill. So again, he's always dealing with something, with some huge emotional thing in the background. So see if you can hear how that may have influenced his writing. Here's Bruce Belton and our fabulous string quartet playing the Mozart Clarinet Quintet. Wonderful playing, wonderful playing. And so you have that to look forward to. The final piece on our program, and we're going to quickly chat about this because then we're actually going to hear from our very own musicians, or at least as many that could technologically figure out how to get here tonight and or who didn't have issues. But the last piece on the program was relatively unknown to me, and I'm excited that our assistant concertmaster Li Yuan suggested it. But it's a piece written by not one, but four Russian composers, and quite famous ones, I might add. But this piece is called B La F. Now, you might think that's a strange name for a piece of music, but it was written as an homage to a great supporter of the arts. His name was Mitrofan Belayev, and this guy, who was a lumber millionaire, a philanthropist, and also a violist, gave large sums of money to many composers, but especially these four, and they wanted to repay him. So Belayev, he was famous for having these Friday night gatherings where they would all gather and just play chamber music and enjoy and have a nice evening with drinks and food. And these events were called Les Vendredis. And on one of these particular events, it just happened to be his birthday or close to it, they presented him with these four composers, which were Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov, Lyudov, Alexander Borodin, and Alexander Glazunov, got together and wrote this quartet and presented it as a surprise at one of these social gatherings. Now, what's special about it, the name, B La F. Think about the name of the benefactor, Belayev, B La F. The La, anyone who's familiar with Italian or solfege in music knows that means A. So B La F, B La F, which is just a musical metaphor for his last name. So every single movement that you hear in this quartet is based off of his last name, has the theme, the main melodic material derived from those three special notes. So in the first movement, for example, we have Rimsky-Korsakov composing this, and it's more of this glorification, and it's very bright, it's very cheery, and because we're writing for a string quartet, composers like Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov, who are much more known for writing for full orchestra and writing treatises on orchestration and being able to pull out these incredible colors from the winds and the brass and these different pairings. Now we're in a setting where we have to focus on melody, where it's about writing content and not just about writing color. Because Rimsky-Korsakov himself only wrote a couple string quartets, not many at all, just like the other composers. Borodin only wrote 2, Glazunov wrote around 7. So it's a group of composers that largely wrote for orchestra and not for a combination of instruments like this. But in the first movement, let's listen just to a little bit, just so you can hear how that first placement of his name, B La F, comes out. Here it is. It's so apparent. It's every la 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 B La F B La F. So, and it's not very subtle in the remaining 3 movements. In the second movement, we have a scherzo by Lyudov, which is light and humorous, and it's really nice because this composer had a relatively small output, and it's nice to hear what he's capable of. He was very self-critical, didn't have much confidence, but you can really hear some very brilliant writing. Here's a bit of the second movement. So very simple, the continuous drive of the scherzo rhythms, and then yum bum 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 beat la f, all of the same intervallic relationships between those three notes. And we get to the third movement, which is called a Serenata alla Spagnola, which is just a serenade, and it sounds very Spanish. This is by Alexander Borodin. It's got a more of a tenderness to it, more of this sense of bliss. It relaxes much more than the first two movements. Here's the third movement, or an excerpt from the third movement by Alexander Borodin. And what's really great about this is you finally have a movement where actually a lot of the movements really emphasize the viola, but you can tell how much they wanted to incorporate the viola, just because he was a violist and they wanted to make that connection as much as possible. So the viola often has this leading role, especially in this very exposed movement, where you can just feel very clearly this very simplistic melodic line. And finally, we have the finale by Alexander Glazunov. It's this heroic, dare I say, very Russian finale. And let's just give a little taste of that before we have our musicians join us to chat about the program. And I'm going to leave you wanting more with that. So now is a great part of the pre-talk, in that I'm going to invite our musicians who played in the program, at least most of which, and we're just going to chat about some things to listen for and get into some other aspects of chamber music. So I'm going to welcome to the stream Bruce Belton, Barbarossa, Kathleen Davis, and we have, I think, a couple others who might straggle in here and there. Technology is such a weird thing, guys. But welcome to the program. Actually, yeah, Liu Yuan is here. Michael is here. There. Now we're a complete Brady bunch. So first of all, welcome. And what a process this has been to get to this point. So first of all, my first question is, how great is it to finally be able to make music after so many months? Li Yuan, please.
It was wonderful because I really miss seeing my colleagues and then play music with everyone, not just by myself in my room.
Michael, anything to add?
Oh yeah, it's fantastic to hear, someone else make some noise. I think we all get sick of hearing our own voice after being isolated for too long.
Well, it's so nice. It was so nice to be in a room. Everything was socially distanced and safe, and I felt comfortable. And I'm very skittish when it comes to viruses and being safe in that respect. But no, it was so nice to just gather together. And I have a small clip from rehearsal, just to show how that process went. And just relax a little bit more. Yeah. You know, it was so great to be talking about music, about just being enveloped in the whole process. You know, I hope you guys, I'm sure you guys felt the same energy I was, and I wasn't even making any sound except for the random things that I do as a conductor. But what was this process like for you, putting this program together?
It was a little bit nerve-wracking. It turned out we just kind of slid into it and felt comfortable because we were finally playing together again.
Right. Bruce, how was the clarinet portion for you? What was it like?
I think that I've played a lot of chamber music in the last 25 years, and proximity of yourself to your other players is a really important component because we play without a conductor.
Right.
So being able to see your co-players and respond to body movement is very important for staying together. And it was a challenge to be in this room separated at such great distance. And then I had in front of me some plastic shields, which isolated me additionally from the sound too. So yeah, it was great to be back, and it had some definite additional challenges. It would have been nice to have you conducting us. Actually, when you did for just about 30 seconds, it was really great. I thought, oh, just stay there. It's a lot easier.
It does make a good point that, you know, especially with the distances involved, you know, something like chamber music where that more intimate connection is emphasized, right. It does make things a little bit more difficult. But as far as this process as a whole, how much does it differ from a live performance for you all?
Yeah, for me, it feels like being in a recording studio.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's a level of pressure to play the thing perfectly, start to finish. But also, you know that if there's something doesn't quite go the way you want, you get to have take a mulligan, as they say in golf. Yeah, so it's different than being, and then you don't have the energy of an audience either, which I think is. I like playing. You know, music. Being a musician partly is showing off your trade, and you don't get to really do that in front of a camera. So.
Right. Which goes back to my first point at the beginning of the lecture. I really can't wait to combine both worlds, but especially to be back in Laxon and the Cascade and be absorbed in that energy from you all as musicians and the audience. I mean, there's really nothing like it, and we have to work together to get back to that point. I have one big question for you all. With all of this music, with the program, are there any special things that you really liked about it, or special moments that we should listen for as audience members? Anything you want to point out about the music?
Well, for the BIF, obviously the theme, mm-hmm. B flat, A, and F, throughout the entire piece, all four movements, and
right.
Very prominent theme. And when I first heard about this piece, I was like, wow, this is like in your face, you know, just 3 notes on your face. And it's a very well written piece, and I really enjoy studying and playing this piece.
Well, thank you for bringing it up, Liu, and we're very happy to have discovered such an interesting little quartet.
Okay.
Any final thoughts from you all, or just anxious to get into the premiere on Thursday?
Can't wait for the premiere.
We haven't seen it. We haven't seen our own recording, so.
Well, let me tell you, and we'll talk about this when I'm with Elizabeth, but there's the recording part, and then there's the editing and production part, which
Right.
unfortunately I have to wear all those hats now. It's a little bit different than just conducting an orchestra, I must say, and you have to have a lot of patience throughout the process. But you all did amazing work. I truly enjoyed such a long recording weekend with you, and I can't wait for everyone in the North State to experience these wonderful pieces and your amazing musical talents. So thank you all, and we will see you on Thursday. So,
Okay. Thank you.
So now I'm going to add Elizabeth and subtract a bunch of other people. Bye, Michael. And now we're at the final portion of this evening's pre-concert talk, where we're with our executive director, Elizabeth Quivy, and we get to chat about what this whole process has been like, and especially about this new transition, at least momentary transition to memberships, as opposed to our regular subscriptions, which really had seats attached to them, whereas memberships do not necessarily have that, except that of your sofa and your comfy chair. But Elizabeth, welcome to the pre-concert talk. Nice to have you here. This has been a strange few months, has it not?
It has been just bonkers weird.
So as I was saying in the beginning, we went through, dozens of
easily. I don't even know what you went through.
Transformations, it was emotionally exhausting to experience what we've experienced in the past. And I don't even know how long anymore, but every minute seems so long. I mean, it just went by so quickly and yet so slowly at the same time. Even in terms of like Beethoven 9, which we wanted to have, at the end of last season, and then, we'll just move it to the beginning of the 20th season.
Yeah, that'll
nope.
be fine. The end of the 20th season, that'll be fine. Nope.
Right. So obviously that's not happening this year. We hope that maybe it can happen in the 21-22 season, but of course we're seeing what's happening in the world around us. We have to adhere to community and national, all the safety standards implemented to us. So many transformations, and we eventually ended up here where we are, and with our first pre-concert talk happening now at the end of October as opposed to the end of September, because that's at the end of September, we were still trying to figure all this stuff out. We were still having changes thrown at us. We were having
wildfires. Go figure.
Right. Yeah. Wildfires, all the stuff typical to Northern California and California and the West Coast as a whole. And it seems like just a giant continuation of 2020, as we all know.
We're getting used to it.
Right. But we're finally here, and we have all of these, we have 6 virtual chamber music performances lined up for our 20th season as the North State Symphony, and my 6th season, which just, time flies. Time especially flies this year in a way. And, we're starting out with Mozart and more. We have, a Gypsy Strings program curated by Terry Bond, which we just recorded this past weekend, coming up in November. We have our Beethoven celebration in December, which has a few surprises to it that we're excited about. In February, we have another program that's going to be finalized soon that's coming up. We hope to bring you Stravinsky's Soldier's Tale in the spring, which is a piece written for a pandemic, during a pandemic, in 1918, when Stravinsky couldn't have his big ballets, his Firebirds, his Rite of Springs, his Petrushkas performed. And then our season finale, which has a lot of really interesting programming, very diverse composer mix, and a lot of underrepresented composers. Another one sort of with a lot of insight from our wonderful concertmaster, Terry Bond. So we're excited to talk about those more in much greater depth later on. But let's chat about memberships. Tell us what the heck a membership to the North State Symphony is.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, we're not having concerts, so we can't sell tickets. And our season ticket holders, our subscribers who have been with us for almost decades, many of them have been purchasing subscriptions for decades, as long as they've been around. And this year, since we don't have tickets to actual physical concerts, we are switching temporarily to a 20th season membership format, which is a virtual package that you can purchase all season long at any time. There's no deadline to jump in and support the symphony with a membership. They're available through our website, northstatesymphony.org, or through the box office at California State University, Chico, through chicostatetickets.org. And we'll have all this information on our website. But a membership gets you access to not only the free content that you're going to be seeing in just a couple of days, and including right now, pre-concert talks and musician interviews and our virtual concert premieres, but you'll also get some special bonus virtual music content that we're kind of keeping a little bit of a secret because it's fun and it's kind of happening as it comes. But for example, our members will be receiving a link tomorrow for a very special virtual performance of a piece for 5 musicians by contemporary composer Mark Mellitz. And it includes some of the folks who are playing on our Mozart and More concert and some other Reading musicians as well. And it's a really special piece. Mark Mellitz is one of my favorite composers for chamber music, contemporary chamber music. And it's a treat that we're really excited to share with our members as a special thank you for supporting the symphony through this very strange time that we're in right now. So basically, a membership is like a 2020 substitute for a subscription until we can get back to performing live in theaters again.
Exactly. And like she was talking about, so many exciting pieces that are member only exclusive content, including a piece or two that I'm going to play in throughout the season. We just recorded one this past weekend, which will be released in November. But yeah, you spoke of the Mark Mellitz piece. I actually had a chance to premiere it today with chatting to Eric about it. One of our wonderful percussionists, Eric Whitmer, actually did the editing for the Mellitz. And let me tell you, this is a huge project. It's a 60-hour project. Performing aside, which is its own beast, putting all of these video clips together is an enormous project. And if you know Eric, he's doing a lot. He's a college student. He's one of our volunteer board members. And he's a percussionist in the symphony, so he's got a lot of hats. And now he's a video editor as well. So
I think we all are technologically audio video editors of some kind to some degree these days.
Right.
But yeah, this Mellitz video is different because each musician recorded it at their home separately, and then it had to be edited together. Very different from the last recording sessions that we've done in person.
Right. And as we're talking about membership stuff, membership content, there's so many other things aside from just these special pieces that we're going to give all of our wonderful members. There's going to be some virtual sessions where it's just me and maybe one or two of our musicians having a special conversation about maybe what it's like to piece a season together, or what it's like to play the violin, or some educational aspect. There might be a happy hour where I show you how to make my favorite drink. So there's all kinds of member-only benefits. But speaking in terms of all of our amazing concert premieres, for instance, this Thursday, we're so happy to be able to bring the bulk, these less than an hour concerts to everyone in the North State for free.
Yes.
We've partnered with our public access stations, with SCAC TV, with BCAC TV, and all the incredible people that work at those places, with Access Humboldt. And we've really, again, broken out of the metaphorical box, and we've tried to find every way possible to keep music alive, to keep music close to you in your living room, on your smartphone, however you want to experience it. We're going to make an effort to be there for you. So again, please become a member, because that's how you keep us going through this. That's how we see LAX again. That's how we see the cascade, because there is that difficult transitory period that we're all experiencing. And us, just like any other nonprofit, any other arts organization, we are here because of you all, and it's going to stay that way. So we will end today with any questions that you all have. And this is my first time looking through all the comments. I just want to see if there's anyone. Oh, Of course, Andrew Singer Swords is one of the first ones. Where did Meister Seaton get his
No, they're
glasses?
your glasses.
What town? These glasses are whatever my local eye person. I actually might get a new pair tomorrow, so you might see a different pair soon. Andrew, I'll get back to you. Someone says they really enjoy the backstory about how these pieces are put together. Glad to hear. Any other questions? Again, thank you all for joining us. We've really enjoyed these live sessions that we've done over the past several months, and especially now being back into the midst of our 20th season. Anytime that you want to know something during these pre-concert talks, that's why we're doing them live, so you have a chance to submit questions on the spot and have them answered right on the spot. So unless there is anything else, I'm going to peruse.
Janet just asked us what the cost for a season membership was, and that is a wonderful question. There is one price. It is $120 per household for the entire season, and you can subscribe at any time. And that one price will give you and your household access to not only our free content that's going to be available all season long, but also to special bonus content for members that will pop up, including extra music videos and Zoom chats with the maestro and behind the scenes content.
Yeah, you got to see the piece we just recorded for November. It's a hoot.
Yeah,
I'll talk about it very soon, but yeah, we got a lot of special things planned for our memberships in addition to all our wonderful free virtual content. All right, so one more quick perusal.
doesn't look like it.
Well, Elizabeth, I want to thank you for joining us, because it's not often we get to have our executive director join us on things like this. So
might as well.
And again, I want to thank everyone who's joined us this evening. I want to thank all of our wonderful sponsors, all of our wonderful patrons, all of our wonderful audience members, especially our live concerts who have now transitioned to a virtual world temporarily. And we really, really can't wait to bring you all of our amazing musical performances this season. And we really can't wait to see you again in the Lax and Cascade, in the State Theater in Red Bluff, in all of our venues throughout the North State. So until Thursday and until our next virtual performance, please stay safe, happy, and we hope you stay connected to us through music. And we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.